Hi guys, Black is here, and I've got to tell you all this story, okay? When I was delivering propane, I went to this company, and I don't remember the name of the company, but I went to this company to deliver propane. And so, those forklift tanks, I would, take off, just say if the customer had five empty tanks, I would pull five empty tanks out of his cabinet or whatever, and I would put them on the truck, and I would give him five full tanks and put back in his cabinet. Okay, this one particular place, I had to park on a hill. It was a steep driveway that sat in front of a company. And the safety guy walks by one day and he sees my truck is not chalked. So he's he's not raising, the first day he's not raising hell, but he's telling me that I'm parked on the hill and my truck could roll and it could kill somebody, and he wants me to chalk my tires. And I'm like, my propane truck never had chalk on the truck, okay? I guess my company felt that we didn't need them, and we don't need them because the truck had air brakes. Now, he said, I tried to explain this to him, but because of this color right here, I am, and he wasn't, he's a much lighter color, he felt that I didn't know what I was talking about. So he's going to try to tell me that he knows about how air brakes work and air could leak out and the truck will roll. And I tried to explain to this guy that air brakes don't work that way. When the parking brake don't work that way. The parking brake has absolutely nothing to do with air. So I told him this the first time, but he was in a hurry, so he walked away and left. So I don't know, a few weeks later, I was at this same company again, parked in the exact same spot. And the thing is, I had been coming to this company for some years. No one had ever said anything to me. But again, this guy, he comes a second time and he's raising hell at me again about the truck parked on the hill and the tires are not chalk and the air can leak out and the truck will roll. So I tried to tell him, but he didn't want to listen. Lighter skinned people just won't listen to darker skinned people because they figure we don't know what we're talking about. So anyway, I walk over to the driver's side of the truck and there's two air tanks, right? I open up both air tanks to let the air out. He loses his freaking mind. He's like, man, what the hell is wrong with you? He runs over and he tries to turn the valve to close it, but he opens the valve up even wider. So air is running out. And he's like, man, close the valve. I'm like, for what? The truck is actually safer with no air in the air tanks. And he's like, man, you're crazy, man, you crazy. I'm going to call your company and tell them to not to ever send you out here again. So anyway, the air is coming out the truck, right? And I tried to explain to him that when the truck is parked, springs are holding the brakes on, okay? Air, yes, is air brakes, but when you put on the parking brake, air is not holding the brakes. There's springs. But again, he claimed he knew about air brakes, but he didn't. Because if he did, he would know by me letting the air out the truck. The truck is safer now than it was when they had 120 pounds of pressure in the tanks. So for people who don't know, how does air brakes work? How do parking brakes work on air trucks, on air brakes? Okay. Before I can move that truck, after letting all the air out the tanks, I can't move the truck. If I push the yellow button to release the brakes, won't nothing happen. The truck is not going anywhere. Even if one of the springs just decide to break, the truck is still not going to go anywhere. One tire will hold that truck. But now, so how does air brakes work? Real simple. I had to crank the truck up and let it run to build up air pressure in the tanks. When that air pressure gets up to at least 60 PSI, I can then release the brakes. So how does that work? You keep asking. Again, springs are used to keep the brakes on. Okay, so when you pull out the yellow button, it makes noise like psh, There's loud air shooting off. People think that that means air is used to control the brakes. No, air is holding those springs. Air is compressing the springs. When you push in, when you build up air pressure and you push in the yellow button, air is sent to compress those springs. When it compresses the springs, the brakes release and the truck can roll down the road, whatever, right? So when you step on the brakes, just like when you get ready to stop at the red light or whatever, you step on the brakes, air shoots into another part of that same chamber. The spring is over here, but the air brake part is here. So when you step on the brake, this part fills with, again, this is one part. The spring is on this side, okay? When you step on the brakes, air shoots into this side and it applies the brake, okay? When you pull out that yellow button to put the parking brake on, the air that's holding this spring is removed and the spring comes on and it applies the brakes. So again, when I park that truck on the hill and pull out the yellow button, I'm releasing the air that's holding that spring and the parking brake comes on. That's why I say when I let out the air in the tanks, the truck was safer because now no one can release the brakes. Not until air pressure builds up. But I tried to explain to this guy, but again, because I'm this color and he's lighter skinned, he didn't want to hear it. He did not. He called my company and he told them not to send me out there anymore. But my boss was like, he's the best driver we got, you know, and he's not going to do anything that's unsafe. And my boss tried to explain to him, but he didn't want to hear my boss. My boss was the same color as he is. He just assumed I didn't know what I was doing. He just assumed I was unsafe. So I tell you something, if you're driving down the road, just same, it's that same truck. If I'm driving down the road and for whatever reason, brake chambers sometime will leak. And as a matter of fact, I had a leak on not that particular truck, but an older truck. You could hear the air coming out, but the parking brake, it didn't lose enough air for the parking brake to come on. But that does happen sometimes. If you ever go down the road and you see a tractor and trailer or whatever, and the back brakes are smoking, I mean, he's driving down a level ground, not down a hill, but down a level road, and you'll see you might see black marks on one tire, and you'll see the tire slide all the way off the road, and that was a brake chamber that blew and the parking brake came on. Now, I've never had one to blow. Usually they leak and the brakes never really come on. Sometimes they do, but I've never had one that bad. Because normally when I hear air leaking from my brake chamber, I get it fixed. But a lot of dumb drivers don't pay much attention to it and the brakes end up locking up on them, or they apply and they drag and they smoke and they catch fire. I've seen that several times, but it has never happened to me because, again, I'm smart enough to get my stuff fixed when it needs to be fixed. There's one thing I want to add. Okay, you probably asking, well, Black, what about the people who say that tires need to be chalked? I mean, aren't they trying to be safe? Yeah, they're trying to be safe, but they don't know how air brakes work either. The chalk and tire thing came from somebody sitting behind a damn desk that don't fully understand how air brakes work. And that's why they come up with that, you need to chalk the tire thing. Air brakes do not go bad. Let me change that. Parking brakes do not just go bad, all right? They don't just go bad. They don't just sit, a truck don't sit on the hill with the parking brake on and one day the brakes just go bad and the truck roll. That the way they design, it will not ever happen, okay? Now, is it possible, like I said, it is possible that one spring could break because they usually put at least 2 parking brakes on the truck if it's single axle. One spring could break, but the truck is still not going to roll because the other spring is there. Even if the truck is parked on a steep hill, It's not going to roll because that other spring will hold it unless the brakes are bad. And if the brakes are bad, the damn truck shouldn't be parked on the hill anyway. The brakes should be fixed. Dre, y'all have a good day.